Mic check one, two.
Yo, get out of here with them weak ass shoes, yo.
Balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep in love. I'm talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep in love.
What's going on, guys? We're back with another episode of Balls Deep with Devin and Jovan. I'm Jovan, obviously. I'm joined by my co-host, Devin. Today we're here to talk about some NBA playoff basketball. We got some pretty good series going on so far. I mean, even the ones that aren't close game-wise have been pretty close in terms of score-wise, game by game. So we've been getting some pretty good NBA playoffs. Me and Devin were kind of just chatting about it. I mean, even some of our predictions have been a little off due to the fact that you know these series are a lot closer. Some of these series are a lot closer than we anticipated. But I mean, I can't complain about that. We love seeing some competitive playoff basketball rather than kind of seeing shitty results. So before we jump into it, as always, like, follow, subscribe, show some love, leave us some comments. So that's always appreciated. But now to get into it, jump right into it, some NBA basketball. First, we'll talk about Milwaukee and Miami, just because they finished the series faster than anybody else. Obviously, Milwaukee came out and did what they had to do, swept the Miami Heat. Looked like a completely different series than what we saw in the bubble last year. But yeah, I mean, Milwaukee just looked like a really good team. What do you think about that series, Devin?
I picked the Heat to win, so I'm actually happy for the matchup that we're gonna get in the second round due to the fact that Milwaukee handled their business. Giannis, he said they didn't want to play with their food, and you could tell they didn't want to take any chances of taking their foot off the gas pedal, which is good. However, I am worried about Giannis and his damn free throws. Yes, they swept the Heat, but he's getting so many free throw opportunities, which is good when you make it. so he hasn't been making them, and I think against who they're going to play against, I'll just say it, but because since we're going to talk about it next, but you're playing the Nets. They're going to put up as much points as you possibly can. You have to defend them to, obviously prevent them from scoring as 140 points a game. But you also got to keep up with them as well. They lost DiVincenzo for the rest of the playoffs, so that's going to hurt them. But they're looking good. And you can tell Drew Holiday's truly making a difference. Hopefully Chris Middleton doesn't go MIA, because he looked really good against the Heat. But I think it's also this series also says a lot about the Heat, and they're gonna have to blow it up this offseason. It is. I feel like part of it is because both the Lakers and the Heat have underperformed this season due to injuries. Could be because they've both had like the shortest off season amongst any teams due to being like in the bubble and playing last. But you could really tell it really hurt the Heat more. Maybe because they've had less star power, you can say, but they just got manhandled. Like game one was super close and competitive. I thought we were gonna have ourselves a series, and then after that, Milwaukee was just in their bag. They wasn't letting out.
Yeah, nah. I mean, it's tough. I mean, I definitely think. I mean, especially as we kind of see how the Lakers series is progressing, and not that the Suns aren't a good team, and not to use it as an excuse, but I mean, legit. I mean, there's definitely some fatigue there. You can see it. Obviously, the injuries more than likely have to do with the quick turnaround. Basically, never having stopped playing basketball because when you basically finish the season and we're champions. And for the Miami Heat, obviously finished the season, weren't champions. I mean, maybe you had, I don't know how long you had off, but it probably wasn't much longer before you had to start hitting the gym again and getting prepared for the season. That was just in another few months. So,
And with the Heat, they had more players from the bubble carry over to the season, whereas the Lakers
100%.
obviously kind of there weren't as many players that were on that championship roster that are on this year.
100%, and that's where I agree. Where it definitely probably affected the Heat a lot more than it did the Lakers, due to the fact that, I mean, one, they never really had as much depth as the Lakers did. I mean, it looked that way in the bubble, because a lot of players were outperforming themselves. I mean, let's be honest, a lot of players were, but so it looked that way. But at the same time, they really never did have that depth. It looks like a few of their players never really got better over the offseason, which, again, that's understandable. A lot of people were saying that they didn't think Tyler Hero got any better.
I was going to say, why are you throwing shots at Tyler Hero?
No. And I'll come out and say his name, but I mean, to be fair, how much time did he actually have to go out and work on his game like usual? I mean, how much time from last season in the bubble to this season did he actually have to go out and work on his game?
Do you think they regret not trading for James Harden?
Definitely at this point you do, but hindsight's always 20/20. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, it is what it is. They lost the series.
Because we talked about that before in our NBA special at the end of season 1 about the Heat possibly trading for James Harden, and would he be a fit? And
yeah, he definitely would be.
There was concerns that he wouldn't be a fit, but I think they would have had a better chance this season should they have traded for him. Because Duncan Robinson's a free agent this offseason. Who's to say that he stays? And if he doesn't stay, then it's even more. It's going to be even more critical that they didn't pull the trigger. And Tyler Hero obviously was the reason why they didn't pull the trigger, because they didn't want to get rid of him, which makes sense because he fits their culture, and what he showed in his rookie season was really well. But what I mentioned back in the NBA special was, you're trading away shooting to get shooting. So you're trading two shooters, in a sense, to get a shooter in James Harden that's one of the best shooters of all time. Like, he can create his own shot. And you can tell in this series alone that they truly needed someone else outside of Jimmy on the perimeter, obviously, to create their own shot and create offense for the team in itself. And they had acquired Victor Oladipo at the trade deadline, but he was unavailable come playoff time, and you could tell that they could have used someone of Victor Oladipo's caliber, if not better. Not sure how much of a difference he would have made in terms of the outcome of the series, but I feel like they would have looked more impressive outside of the Game 1 performance should they have had a Victor Oladipo or a James Harden.
No, I completely agree. And again, like I said, I mean, hindsight's always 20/20. But at the same time, if it were me, I'm pulling the trigger. It's James Harden. I'm pulling the trigger regardless. I'm pulling that trigger. So if I'm Miami Heat, I would have already had James Harden. I wouldn't have this issue. However, I mean, I'll give them as well as Tyler Hero the benefit of the doubt, because, like I already said, I mean, there was such a quick turnaround. Everybody's so quick to say, like, oh, like, it's a bubble. It was all because of the bubble. They're like a bubble team, but like, people don't understand. Like, dude, like, that's the quickest turnaround we've ever seen in a league year. And these guys were basically doing it in their first couple years, having to come on turn. I mean, give this kid the benefit of the doubt. Am I going to say that everything he did was just because of the bubble? No. Am I going to say that he still has potential to be an all-time great or something? No, because he kind of showed glimpses of like a very good potential in the bubble. Am I going to go off and based off that and say that he could be like the greatest ever? No, but I mean, he has potential to do some great things, and that's probably what the Heat saw. And who am I to say that still can't happen? I just think to say that it was just because of the bubble is a bit unfair. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, the guys are probably fucking exhausted.
He'll bounce back for sure next year. You can call it what it is. It's a sophomore slump, but it's there's a lot contributing to it. He's still showing flashes of what we've seen last year. This year, he just wasn't as consistent as he was. So, give him a true off season to obviously improve his game. He's clearly seen the downs and the weaknesses or the holes in his game. So let the guy, patch those and see how he bounces back. Should he not bounce back,
100%.
then I don't know what the Heat do, but he just wasn't the player that they were hoping for. But I truly believe in him. He's super talented.
Definitely.
And I really like him as a player, so I really hope that he, gets it together.
Well, 100%. We've seen, like you said, we've seen glimpses of it, and when we've seen that he had when we've seen his confidence at an all-time high, and he's playing well, I mean, he's lights out. So it's not like that just goes away overnight. Yeah. So there's got to be reason for it. You know what I mean? It doesn't just happen that way. But with that being said, we will go on to the only other series that finished in these playoffs, which is also the East, and also just so happens to be Milwaukee's next opponent due to where they fall on this NBA playoffs bracket. The Brooklyn Nets ended up finishing off the Boston Celtics 4-1. There was a little bit of drama in Boston towards the end of that series. We saw all the stories going on with the fans, and then old Celtics players chiming in about Kyrie stepping on the logo. But yeah, I mean, what did you think of that series overall? Basketball, just strictly basketball.
We'll talk about both, but because I think I have more to talk about.
100%. I want to hear your basketball take. I want to hear your basketball take first, and then we'll go on to what we thought about the whole situation. Yeah. With the fan, and then KG, and obviously Big Baby Davis speaking out about it as well.
I'll just keep it simple in terms of my basketball take. It surprised me that the Celtics stole a game. I had it as a sweep, and I'm surprised the Celtics were even in that game to begin with. But what can you say? Jason Tatum. Those are that's it. I mean, he in order for them to even have had a chance in that series, dude was gonna have to drop 50 plus every single game. That game he happened to score at least 50, and they pulled off a victory. So there's that. I mean, it's tough. It's tough because I was surprised that they even won a game. Honestly, the fact that they stole one. Kemba underperformed. Celtics fans are out for his head. As a Kemba fan, I hope he gets the fuck out of there. They're just, unappreciative of the talent that they ever have. Just look at Isaiah Thomas. Whether that be the organization or the fans, they're just ungrateful. Fuck Boston. But also, they just don't seem like they know what they're doing, and free Jason Tatum, come to LA, because everyone outside of Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Robert Williams should be honestly questioning whether they have a job at this point. Brad Stevens' head is on he's on the hot seat as well. No one knows if he's gonna come back next year. I think he should, just because there's not many other coaches on the market at the moment that honestly I think would do a good job. Also, there's just a lot of problems with that team in itself. I think I mentioned it before. I think Danny Ainge is more at fault for their performance this season, and if anyone's got to go, it should be him. But the coaches always get the shit end of the stick, and they get they're the cop out. But in terms of the Nets, they looked really good. I'm not gonna lie to you. I told my Celtics fans, because Kyrie came out and said that he hopes there's not no subtle racism, and he was like, Marquise, he was saying they're gonna boo you because you're a bozo. They're not gonna boo you because they're racist. And I'm like, nah, Boston is pretty racist. They're known to say some racist shit to opposing athletes and things of that nature. And he was like, well, I know part of Boston is racist, but, not everybody. And I was like, nah, all Boston fans is racist.
No, no.
When I mean all, I mean like
yeah.
a good majority. So, and obviously not all. But I sent him articles of proof of, like, Torrey Hunter, for example, in baseball. He talked about how he had a no trade clause to Boston and Boston only his entire career, because he was, every time he went there was racial slurs being thrown at him.
Stuff, yeah.
In terms of baseball, as of late, Adam Jones recently talked about how people called him the N-word when he visited Boston to play the Red Sox and things of that nature, and it carried over. You could definitely tell. Like, I'm glad everything wasn't. From what I know, there was no racist comments mentioned, but they did boo the shit out of Kyrie. And Kyrie, the only way he could retaliate to get every single one of them was to step on the logo. It obviously hurt their feelings. Should it have meant as much as it did? No. But he did what he wanted, and that's to kind of trigger them. Does that justify throwing a water bottle at him? Absolutely
throwing
not.
anything, acting a fool.
I'm glad. I'm glad the fan got arrested, and now he's being charged with assault and stuff like that. And this is the only way that, these fans don't feel protected, in a sense. They feel like they're untouchable. So either we're going to get a Malice in the Palace Part 2 with the way they've been acting, which I'm up for it, as long as I'm not in the stands and I'm not trying to get punched accidentally. But I think if the league is not allowing the players to go retaliate, this is the best way to do it. I think banning them from the arena in itself isn't enough. So maybe banning them from all games, and possibly getting charges put against you is the perfect way for these fans to stop. Because we could talk about it, and we're gonna talk about the series later. But just look at what happened in Atlanta when the fan spit at Trae Young. You're a fucking despicable human being to spit on somebody.
Yeah, that's
especially when it's basketball, bro. It's not even like it's something where you're beefing. Literally, like, let's say we're beefing and you say some shit, and then I were to spit at you. Even I would never, but because I feel like that's the lowest of the lows. But it's not like it's that kind of situation. Dude is playing basketball and he's obviously talking his shit, and you don't like him, so you spit at him. Doesn't make any sense. If I was Trae Young, obviously I don't think he realized it, but 50 Cent did, because he spit on the dude who spit at Trae Young, spit on his girl, in a sense.
Landed on his girl.
But if I was 50 Cent, I would have got up and punched the shit out of him my damn self.
That's what I told 50. You should have done.
He should have did it. Listen. He died once and came back to life, so he better go take that man's soul.
Nah, yeah. I mean, to speak on this series as a whole, I mean, the Brooklyn Nets did look really good. I'm curious. I'm like you said earlier about the Milwaukee series. I was glad to see the Milwaukee series go the way it did. Obviously, not for the sake of, like, not because I preferred them or Miami to win. For me, genuinely, it didn't matter.
You're just happy for Giannis.
I mean, Giannis, I'd like to see him win, but it is what it is. I don't care. But again, just to see them win and win convincingly was nice, because now I feel more comfortable in the series with them going up against the Brooklyn Nets. And again, not that I care who wins that either. I don't. But it's just, wanting to see better basketball, wanting to see more competitive basketball. There's a better prospect of that happening now than if, this game the series against Miami would have went 6 or 7. I would have been like, I don't know what they're going to be able to do against the Nets, So I was definitely happy to see that happen.
They're going to give the Nets. They're going to give the Nets the run for their money.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Brooklyn looked really good, but as did Milwaukee. Milwaukee's players are actually showing up. People going as far as saying that they might have a big three themselves, which is huge. I mean, I just hope for their sake that these guys don't disappear again. But because I think with their depth and their defense, they could give Brooklyn a lot of problems. You know what I mean? Like Brooklyn is very top heavy right now, but they also are missing a lot of pieces they're going to need to kind of compete with that bench of Milwaukee. And so Milwaukee's bench is going to be a problem when, Brooklyn kind of, like I said, I mean, they lack the depth to be able to compete for a 7-game series.
I'm worried about the bigs.
Yeah, I mean, so it's definitely going to be a close series. I definitely think it's something Milwaukee can pull off. But with that being said, to speak on the Boston situation with Brooklyn, I think two things can be true at one time. And I know Boston fans hate to hear it, and they're always like, well, 99% of Boston fans aren't racist. I don't honestly think that the percentage is that high. I think that there's a lot more racist fans than you think. I'm not going to say it's all of them. I'm not going to say it's most of them. But there are a lot of racist Boston fans. And that's the reason why, again, like you said, a player like Torrey Hunter in the past has come out and said that he wouldn't ever want to get traded to Boston. That's just one example, but we've heard stories in the past. So you can't come out and say, no, it's only few. Like, there's plenty of fans that are racist. Plenty of them. And it's probably like that in a lot of cities, but it's probably a lot worse in Boston than a lot of those. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen everywhere, but it happens more often in Boston, and that's why we hear about it more often. But with that being said, like I said, I think two things can be true. I also don't think that Kyrie had the best stint in Boston.
Oh, no.
I think he was kind of a shithead.
I mean, he deserved the boost. I'm not saying he didn't.
Yeah, so he was kind of a shithead in Boston. He didn't have the best stint in Boston, and honestly, I think just as many fans hate Kyrie just because he was a shithead as fans do because they're just racist. Honestly, I mean, a majority of them probably hate them because of his stint in Boston. Because, like I said, I mean, I loved Kyrie. I was a big fan of Kyrie. And even me as a Lakers fan, seeing kind of how he was in Boston.
Yeah, he didn't handle himself the best way.
Yeah, he didn't handle himself in the best way, so... Not to say that there aren't people who are just hating on him because, he's African American. He's a black guy. He's, you know what I mean? Yeah. He's winning in life, and they hate to see it. You know what I mean? So there's probably people like that. But I think there's just as many people that hate him just because, like Marquis said, he's a fucking shithead. I don't think he is now. I love Kyrie in general, but in Boston, he just didn't handle himself the best way. And so I can
feel
see
like he
that.
found himself, and even then, some people say that he's a weirdo and things of that nature. Like, no, I think he's just comfortable in his own skin now at this point, and he's not your average Joe, but he's more spiritual. He literally just wants to play basketball, and outside of that, he's truly, obviously, in supportive of like mental health and things of that nature. So they're human beings. At the end of the day, they're not immortal, and They have feelings. So obviously his stay in Boston. There was something going on. There clearly was something going on off the court. He seems to obviously have it more under control. I'm not saying that he has it under control, but he has it more under control, and that's kind of why he's more of himself now. And I think it has something to do with him being closer to home too, because he's in Brooklyn. He's from New Jersey, so obviously. Should there be a family issue, he's not too far away. Yeah. But not saying people don't hate him because what he did, but there's, like you mentioned, there's a lot of racist shit going on in Boston.
Oh, of course. There's always going to be people like that. They hate you just because you're winning. And it is what it is. Like, there are people that hate on everything. You know what I mean? There are people that hate on the sun because he comes up every morning.
But my thing is, so then KG, Glenn Davis, and then some come out and obviously have comments because of what Kyrie did in terms of stepping on Lucky, which is the leprechaun logo. And I think it was just poor timing. You could have commented on it after the fact, like when, it was all said and done in terms of playoffs or the series. But like right now, all focus, obviously... Fans do what they do because they want the attention, and giving them the attention obviously is kind of what is feeding them at this point. But we should be focusing on protecting the players, and what them coming out with comments in itself are almost like justifying what the fan did was okay. Not saying that that's what they're saying, but like it's just like poor timing in a sense. I feel like them coming out and saying anything in regards to Kyrie, it's almost like adding fuel to the fire. KG shouldn't be one to say something saying that it was disrespectful for him to step on the logo, because dude's done so many disrespectful things. Prime example, telling Melo that his wife tastes like Honey Nut Cheerios. There's another time where he wished Tim Duncan a happy Mother's Day while he was at the free throw line right after his mother passed away. And dude, mind you, KG's my favorite power forward ever. So me coming on and saying this is what it is. Like the dude was a menace, but for him to tell other people like you're being disrespectful, I think he should sit this one out. Then in terms of Glenn Baby Davis saying that they're pretty much disrespecting everyone in the Celtics organization or whoever came before them, that's pushing it. It's not that serious. So Kyrie clearly got what he wanted, and that's kind of to hurt some feelings.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree with you on this, and I even said it. I mean, we had a friend that said that I mentioned the whole KG and Davis situation. He was like, well, I don't think that they're comparing the two, and I agree. I don't think KG or Davis are comparing the two and saying that, they're similar situations. I just think regardless of how you feel about this, and this is KG and Davis, regardless of how you feel about this, in this situation, I just don't think you can come out and speak on that right now. Due to the fact that this is what's going on with fans, because it, like you said, it's not comparing it. It's not saying, well, Kyrie stepped unlucky, so you are able to throw the water bottle at him. But coming out and saying that, I mean, me and you, we're having this conversation. Me and you understand that that's not what KG and Davis are saying, but that's not how everybody's going to take it. You know what I mean? Celtics fans hearing KG say, well, you step unlucky,
there's idiots out there.
You're disrespecting everybody, and Davis saying that, keep it strictly basketball or somebody's going to get hurt over a logo. That in itself, saying that, keep it basketball or somebody's going to get hurt, like that is enough for a fan to be like, oh, well, Davis agrees that shit's disrespectful, so let me throw a water bottle at Kyrie. Maybe next time it's not a water bottle. Maybe next time it's something worse. You know what I mean? Like, who knows? But that's what I'm saying is, like, it's not whether you're comparing the two scenarios or not. I get you're not saying, this, that, and third, but that's not how everybody's going to take it. Not everybody's going to comprehend it the same way. Everybody's going to have a different reaction. That's just the reality of life. And so to come out and say that when everything's kind of still hot and going on, it's just bad timing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just can't say that.
I mean, just the reason why I'm laughing is because what I'm thinking about what I was going to say is just follow suit with Bradley Beal. That's it. I don't know if you've seen it, but they asked him, they're like, hey, with everything going on, do you feel less protected? And he was like, less protected? I wouldn't say that, but I don't want to use my hood terms, but these hands still work. So if they truly if they're truly butthurt about the logo, walk up on my guy. And honestly, I'm talking about straight hands, no weapons. Please,
Kyrie ain't fighting nobody.
Please, no violence in terms like no gun violence or anything like that. But if you truly want to fight the guy, he got KD in his corner. KD with the static. He'll pull up on you.
I'm telling you,
give him your address. He'll pull up.
Over basketball. Kyrie don't want to fight nobody over basketball. He don't care.
It's not that serious. But I'm saying if you truly want to fight the guy, I'm sure he'll beat your ass. It ain't that deep. But I mean, he's got KD in his corner. KD's with the static. He'll pull up on you. Just give him your address.
No, I don't know. I just thought the timing of it was horrible.
the timing
like
was
I
poor.
said, like it's just like you can't really say that. It's just gonna fuel the idiots. You know what I mean? And that's what you don't want.
There's a lot more. There's a lot more idiots out there than we think too.
100%.
But we're gonna move forward. and talk about what recently happened yesterday. Unfortunately, we were on the poor side of things. So I don't know about you, but I turned the game off at halftime, and I didn't turn it off. Well, yeah, I did. I changed the channel, and I tuned into the other game that was going on, and I was happy with my decision. But we'll talk about what we're disappointed about right now. I guess the Suns yesterday blew out the Lakers. They were at halftime. They were winning by 30, and I don't know how much they won by because I stopped paying attention. But they took a 3-2 lead in the series versus Lakers after the blowout win in Game 5. Game 6 is tomorrow on June 3rd. We're recording this on June 2nd. Just FYI for those listening or watching. Honestly, I didn't expect anything less. Did I expect getting blown out by this much? No. I expected it to be, within, at least 15 points. Thought the game would be closer. Did I expect us to win? No. I was expecting us to lose and obviously win Game 6 and 7. Because I think AD is going to come back for Game 6. But now I'm starting to question whether he is. So I'm kind of getting more worried at this point. Because I don't think we win the series without him. Being that LeBron can't do himself in terms of scoring wise, and the thing is, he's in terms of his numbers, this is the worst numbers he's had in the playoff series his entire career, and that's not saying much. Like, he's not putting up bad numbers, but to his standard, he is. So I think Anthony Davis is the difference maker because they don't really have anyone to kind of stop Anthony Davis. Mm-hmm. Dennis Schroeder is playing poor. He was. I don't know if you seen the stat I sent to the group chat yesterday.
Oh yeah, I watched the game. It was fucking
and he's supposed to be the third option, but so Dennis Schroeder finished with 0 points, 1 assist, 0 for 9 shooting, 0 for 4 from the 3, and he turned down $84 million from the Lakers. So. Stat Muse, shout out to you guys. You said he is the first Laker to go scoreless in a playoff game while attempting 9+ shots since the franchise moved to LA. Bro, that was like what kind of moment? I'm trying to think. Fuck, I forgot. It was an ether moment. Stat Muse came out with this stat, and it was just like, bro, like really. Like it outside of LeBron, Caruso, and I want to say Marc Gasol, this team has been playing so poor, and the reason why I feel like Caruso, he's not giving us the scoring that we need, but when he's not giving us the scoring, he's providing defense. Marc Gasol, he's playing really well. Andre Drummond, I don't want to keep him next year. As I like him as a rental, but I know we're gonna have to pay big for him, and I don't think he's worth it. But he's not playing well this series either. It's tough. And yesterday, just watching it made me sick to my stomach because the Suns just, weren't missing. They weren't missing. They were finding every single way to make a basket, and the Lakers were finding every single way to miss a basket. They couldn't buy a fucking bucket, and it was sad. So it makes me despicable about talking about it. I went to my girl's uncle's house after Game 4, the tough loss there where we were making a run, and then Dennis Schroeder missed a layup and kind of just took our momentum away, and we ended up losing by I think 8. And first thing he did when I walked in was he was talking shit, and he was saying what's good with your Lakers, yada yada. And I was like, I truly wasn't worried. I was like, I'm not worried about it. We'll figure it out. We'll come through. And I still think that, but
it's because you didn't watch the whole game.
But I'm talking about this was game 4, not game 5.
Oh, okay.
Game 5, I would have been sick to my stomach. I was like, yeah. I would have been like, yeah. But that's what I'm saying. So after game 4, I was confident. I was like, oh, we'll get it done. I'm not worried about it. My confidence level is not as high as it was after game 4.
My confidence level is 0. I watched the whole game
and
yesterday.
I don't know how you did it, but Kuzma
Yeah, I
Kuzma
don't
needs to get
either.
the fuck off the roster after this year. I can't fucking stand him at this point.
It was horrible. It was really hard to watch because even when it did look like the Lakers finally were able to afford a fucking basket, there was absolutely nothing they were doing to even look like they wanted to stop the Suns. The Suns were just getting buckets at ease. They were really just getting whatever they wanted. And it was really hard to watch because out of everything, I expected our offense to struggle, which they are. Our offense, we shot 34.5% yesterday from the field. Like 34.5%, 34.5% from the field, 34.3% from three. So awful. Our second best scorer, Dennis Schroeder, 0 points. Contavious Caldwell-Pope, after just having had a bad game, 0 points.
He was injured coming into the game, and he didn't even play the full game because
he didn't play that many minutes.
So
but still,
you can give him some leeway there, but
I will give him leeway, but 0 points. Yeah. 0 points in 15 minutes. That's just not very positive. I'm looking at plus minuses here. Not a single person on our team had a positive plus minus. And actually, LeBron James had the worst with a minus 24 plus minus. Shout out to Kobe.
That's not surprising, though, because
it's not.
Because the dude's trying he's trying to do everything at that point.
Nobody had nobody. One person had a 0, and it was Alfonso McKinney.
Who didn't play a minute.
One person. He played.
He played?
He played. Yeah, barely. That's how bad.
But the thing is, he hasn't played all season.
Bro, but that's how bad it was. we didn't see THT and Montrezl Harrell all series. They came in.
I noticed that, but I think THT should have came in sooner.
100%. I think him and Harrell should have came in sooner.
I seen when he got fouled, he went to the free throw line, he missed his second free throw, got the rebound, and laid it up, which just shows the hustle that we could have used.
Well, that's where I thought, oh shit, he might actually give us some life, because that was, I believe, right before the half that he did that.
But they took our soul.
And I was like, yo, he might give us some life, because he started cutting the lead into the 20s, and then right after he did that shit, the Suns hit like 2 back-to-back threes, and I was like, yeah, this is over. Yeah. And I managed to stick around for another half just to watch us fucking get our asses handed to us. But yeah, it was just awful, the whole game. Everybody looked terrible. Yeah. Obviously, I told you how well we shot as a team. We didn't shoot well.
So I think Schroeder and Kuzma have something to prove Game 6. They have to come out, with a hell of a game. If not, the whole fucking city of California, not city of California, the state of California, city of LA, they're gonna be, gunning for their head as Lakers fans. Lakers Nation is gonna be gunning for both of their heads. But the Lakers have to win the next 2 games here to avoid becoming the 6th defending champion in league history, to follow up their title with the first round playoff exit the next season. Yeah, and I think this would be the first time LeBron lost in round 1 in his career. I could be wrong, but
no, you're right. He's 14-0 in round 1. I believe.
Which isn't good, but. Regardless if the Lakers move on or the
law of averages say we lose.
Regardless if they move on or they lose the series, they need to blow it up. Like, if your name is not LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Alex Caruso, then you should be, questioning if you have a job at this point. And Marc Gasol, I think he might earn himself a role next year, but during the regular season, it didn't look as bright. But he since the acquisition of Drummond, he's felt some type, and seemed like he's gotten rejuvenated. So, like I said, if you're not those 3, I think they need to blow it up, go get themselves a star, a third option, like a really good option, better than Dennis Schroeder, third option. But they need to do something. But I'm still confident that they can pull off the series. As long as Anthony Davis comes back. If he doesn't come back, I'll see you next year.
I don't know. I'm confident in the team as well. Yeah. I think that they can win the series. And honestly, if I'm being real with you, if they play like I've seen them play, because even when AD was gone and it was just LeBron, this team was still really good because it wasn't downhill until LeBron got injured. I think they're still capable of winning even without Anthony Davis. But when you have multiple people putting up 0 points that you need more than 0 points from. Yeah. You need at least 15, 20 from those two guys when AD's out. Kyle Kuzma, just looking like he has no idea what he's doing. Like, honestly, at this point,
be better with you.
I was saying, honestly, at this point, at least I'll put up a fucking jump shot. You know what I mean? Like, It just looks bad because as I'm watching the game, we're getting blown out. It almost just looked like this. The Suns were like daring us to shoot threes because they were absolutely like, you know, murdering us in the paint. We weren't scoring any baskets in the paint. They were daring us to shoot jump shots because we weren't making them. And then at a certain point, it looked like nobody wanted to even take the shots. You know what I mean? Like, it was like LeBron's passing to a guy in the corner who's got more than enough space to pull it, hesitates, and then passes it. It's like, pull the shot. If you miss, you fucking miss. But pull the shot. None of them have confidence. And that's the biggest issue is every single one of them right now just seems like they're lacking any type of confidence because nothing's dropping, and now they're not shooting at all. And I even said it about Kuzma. Kuzma looked horrible. He was missing everything. And then the one shot he made was ugly as shit because he drove the paint. He looked like he wanted to pass it out. Nobody was open, so he was like, fuck it, I have to take it, and then made it. And I was like, see what happens when you fucking shoot the ball? Like, you know what I mean? Shoot the ball.
Well, I'm sure we can go all day about this. So
100%.
Let's just move on here. But and talk about the other game that happened yesterday that I switched the channel to, and I was happy as fuck that I did because Damian Lillard is so lethal. Dude's an animal. He was playing out of this world yesterday. Even his opponent that was guarding him, Austin Rivers, said that he guarded him the best he could. You know, he put one hand in his face. He put two hands in his face. Dude wouldn't fucking miss. It was to the point where when Dame finally missed, Austin Rivers went like this. He was like, thank fucking God. Because, bro, I don't know if you watched it, but Dame
I saw.
Was filthy,
nuts,
bro. And this is why he's like in my top 5 favorite players in the league right now. He's so fun to watch. I would love for the Lakers to somehow find a way to bring him to LA. It's not gonna happen, but I could have some optimism. But the dude, the Lakers could use a player like him, especially right now. But the Nuggets ended up pulling off the win, and they took a 3-2 series lead against the Blazers in double overtime. After Damian Lillard's insane performance, but that loss is more so on his teammates. His teammates sold. His teammates failed him. And prime example, let me find the stat really quick. Hold on. It was Damian Lillard. I think his teammates scored a total of 2 points after regulation. 2 points.
That's bad. That's horrible.
And he had like 19, bro. And he hit, obviously, the 2 biggest threes to keep pushing the game. But the thing is, like, dude had 55 points on 24 shots. He had the most efficient playoff 50-point game in history, which exceeds Jamal Murray. I believe Jamal Murray's performance last year in the bubble, and then
against us.
And I think it was against the Jazz. But But even then, like, the dude he's amazing. But in terms of his teammates folded big time. Like, the one that irks me the most, so he was driving the paint, and Melo was, on the wing, wide open. I thought he was going to pass it to Melo, and when he didn't pass to Melo, I'm like, oh, he must see something that I don't. And instead of going up for it, he passed it up, like, in between two, I think it was two defenders, or he just behind the defender that was on him, to Robert Covington. I'm like, oh shit. Robert Covington went for a dunk and missed the dunk, bro. And I'm like, they just, it's like Damian Lillard wasn't taking a L, like he wasn't settling for a L that yesterday, but his teammates were like, not if we have anything to say about it. Because CJ McCollum, he didn't come up. He was like folding in, down the stretch. He even stepped out of bounds when Dame passed it to him at the end of the double overtime, and that kind of killed the momentum as it is. But I feel bad for Dame. Free Dame, yo.
No, Duff. I mean, pretty sure we both said it. I think we both agreed when we were first recording about playoff basketball, our previous basketball episode. We were saying how we thought this would probably be the best series, and it's definitely, along with Clippers and Dallas, it's definitely shaping up to be. Because although Clippers and Dallas, the series is close, I think these games have been closer than we've seen. It's the first one, I believe. It went to double overtime.
Yeah, but this is hands down the best series in round one.
Hands down the best. Yeah, hands down the best series. I mean, their games are nuts. And they're really just trading blows. I mean, they're going back and forth. That's why it's 3-2 now. It was just 2-2, but I mean, Trailblazers could just as easily come back and win another game.
I think that's exactly what happens.
7. And I think that's exactly what's going to... I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's just the way the series is going right now. Who knows, though? I mean, after scoring 55, Dame could be tired. He might not be. But
it doesn't seem like the Nuggets have an answer for Dame, but also is like the Blazers don't really have an answer for Jokic either. I mean, their last game, so game 4, they actually, defended Jokic pretty well. So they seem like they have an idea of how to stop him. They were throwing different, ideas at him in terms of doubling him, leaving him, obviously one-on-one on certain possessions. So I think they're a good job in terms of changing it up and obviously not giving him the same thing. So Nurkic just needs to, he fouled out yesterday. One of his fouls was kind of bullshit in a sense, but it is what it is. But I think he plays a big factor, especially moving forward in this series, because they're going to need him down the stretch. Kanter, he played big minutes yesterday, but he's obviously not on Nurkic's level, so they need him for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. And I mean, while Dame went up and put it 55, it was just the Nuggets were playing better team basketball for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Dame had 55, but it doesn't help when you have, the other team has a scorer that has 38 and then two guys that almost cracked 30 themselves. We had Monte Morris with 28 and Michael Porter Jr. with 26. So, he had the highest. He had a 50 ball. Like, he had the highest scoring of the game, but the Nuggets were just capable of scoring as a team better, and their scoring was just more spread out. Ultimately, that's really what it came down to at the end is, one guy had just a lot more reliable team down the stretch, especially in 2 overtimes. It's hard for a guy like Dame to, as great as he is, it's hard to kind of go and do that for 2 overtimes and just completely demolish a team and pull that off by yourself. He needed some help down the stretch. That was clear, and he just didn't get it.
Yeah. I think this series goes 7 games regardless of who comes out on top. Obviously, I picked Portland to win in 7, so I'm going to keep. I'm going to stick with my prediction. I think Dame is obviously the X factor, and I said Michael Porter Jr. is the X factor for the Nuggets, and he's been playing well himself. So kudos to him. And let's just move on we're on a time crunch here, so we can just fit what we're going to talk about the rest of the games. The Jazz, they're winning the series against the Grizzlies 3-1 at the moment. After their Game 4 win, Game 5 is tonight. And I called a sweep. I said if they play the Grizzlies, they're going to sweep them. And obviously, I was wrong after Game 1. But when I made that prediction, I obviously was expecting Donovan Mitchell to be healthy. And he missed Game 1. And the Grizzlies stole Game 1. But since his return, they haven't looked back at all. So I'm expecting the Jazz to win it tonight and finish the series. Although the Grizzlies have been playing tough and they honestly look good, they're playing really good team basketball. I just think the Jazz are obviously in terms of depth are just too much, and that's why I think they'll finish the series tonight. So yeah.
I agree. No, I think the Jazz finished the series off. I was in agreement with you when you said that would be a sweep. I also thought it would be a sweep. But like you said, Donovan Mitchell didn't play Game 1. I won't just completely put it onto that.
But, for sure.
I mean, but it's clear as day. I mean, they've won every game since his return. So, I mean, who's to say they wouldn't have swept with him there in Game 1? But at the same time, like you said, the Grizzlies are playing great team basketball. Sure. They're doing really well. It's just the Grizzlies are. I mean, the Jazz are just too much. The Grizzlies are still just a few pieces away, and then that's as clear as ever. They're a young team. They should be happy with what they've accomplished. But I think the series ends tonight.
When I say Donovan Mitchell missed Game 1 and that they played a big part in why they lost, I'm not strictly putting on that. The Grizzlies came out and played. Dylan Brooks balled out. Jaws just a fucking animal. They got Jaren Jackson. They got a few young bucks down there that know how to ball. So there's no sliding their win. But who's to say that Donovan Mitchell could have been a difference maker? But I do think they finished. I think they finished the series tonight and move on. And they play the winner of the Clippers Mavericks series, and right now it's currently tied 2-2. After the Clippers won. It's weird because the Mavs won both games in LA, and it almost seemed like they were going to win the series, and then they went to Dallas, and Clippers took both games in Dallas. So now they're going back to LA for Game 5. How do you see this game panning out, obviously, and then the series panning out? I know I had predicted Clippers in 6. And it's still very well possible that it'll happen. So I think the Clippers will win tonight. But to win 4 in a row and to lose 4 in a row is tough. The way Luka's been playing. I think they're going to lose 4 in a row. And the reason why is because I think Luka's really hurt. Like, after he got hurt in Game 3 with his shoulder. He was caught kind of, squinting and stuff like that. And they obviously paid attention to his shoulder. But he did the same thing. And I thought it was just, maybe that game. But he did the same thing in Game 4. He's still balling out. Even with this injury. Or even if he's hurt. But the thing is, he's not getting the help that he needed. That he was getting early. Like, early he was, Tim Hardaway Jr. was stepping up. A bunch of all these role players were doing what they had to do to kind of help them, get these wins. But, like... He can't. It almost seems like the Clippers are letting Luka do what he wants, and kind of forcing his teammates to win them the game. And these past 2 games, it's worked, honestly. And it could have been after Rondo, was chewing him out in the locker room after game 2. But Rick Carlisle even said, like, they're not running plays like they usually do because Rondo's calling out their plays. Like, on defense, he's calling out their plays. So he's literally keeping their plays to, a minimum in the series due to Rondo obviously playing for Dallas in the past, so he knows their playbook. And like that just shows the intelligence of a Rondo, but also, playoff Rondo is activated. And I think, like I mentioned before, I think the Clippers get past round 1, but I don't see them getting past, that. So I think Clippers wins tonight. And question is, do they win 4 in a row? But I'm gonna stick to my prediction at this point.
I really want to pick Dallas because I think Luka's been killing it. Obviously, and he's playing really well, but he can't do it by himself, and it's similar to what we're seeing, a little similar to what we're seeing in Portland currently, with kind of Dame doing it all. It almost seems like Luka's doing it all, and we need to see more from Kristaps Porzingis. I mean, he's really just not really helped at all. Like, I mean, not what he's not who he should be.
No.
You know what I mean? And I just think if he's capable of maybe elevating his game for this series, I can definitely see them winning it.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's going to happen, and especially now, like you said, with Luka kind of not being 100%, I don't see him being able to do it long enough. I think he'll still be able to. I think he's still capable of maybe pushing this to 7 games. Ultimately, I think they lose though. Also a big reason for that isn't just Luka and his, incapabilities, I should say, because I mean, I know he's capable, but again, like I said, it's hard to do it by yourself. But it's not just about Luka and his incapabilities, but a lot of the story that I feel like nobody is going to talk about, if and when I think inevitably the Clippers win, is Rondo. Obviously, you just mentioned it, but I don't think he's going to get as much credit as he should after, like I said, I think they inevitably win it.
Yeah.
Because, again, like you said, he was chewing them out in the locker room. People were saying that he was arguing with the coach. Like, he was arguing with other players. So, like, I think that has to do with it. I think Rondo is like, look, I'm not doing this shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like we need to win games. Like, we're supposed to be a good team. You guys talk about being the best team in LA. You guys talk about winning championships and shit. But they look like shit. The Clippers honestly look like shit.
I truly think he said something to hurt their feelings, and he said he said you guys say you're the best team in LA, but you guys ain't shit. I was on the Lakers last year and we won the chip, and they don't even like what you guys do now. Like, wouldn't even slide over there, and you guys if you guys want to obviously one up them, then you gotta step the fuck up. And I think that they just were butthurt about it.
Well, regardless of what he said, I feel like something he said is working. I also saw him running point a lot more their last matchup. They played a lot better in their last matchup, probably due in part because of that. But again, like I said, I mean, after the reports of him kind of having that whole thing in the locker room with them, they come out and they actually looked like a really good basketball team. And so that's why I feel like they'll come out and end up winning this series. And I think a big part of that reason is Rondo. Will he get that credit that he deserves for it? Maybe, maybe not. I am giving it to him because honestly, he's just different. I mean, I've always felt like he was, one of the more underrated players in this league, one of the more underrated point guards in this league. Even when people talk about the old Boston Celtics, it's always Ray Allen, KG, and Paul Pierce. You don't hear Rondo's name mentioned enough.
Because he was a young buck.
Yeah, definitely he was a young buck, but he's always been a very smart player, a very reliable player. He brings tenacity to the court. He brings things to the court that don't always show up on the stat sheet. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so that's why he's always been such an important piece wherever he goes. So with that being said, I think they win the series, obviously in either 6 or 7. Because that's the only options at this point. But I think it goes 7. But I think they win it, ultimately.
And then to move on to the last 2 series that we haven't talked about, which are in the East. 76ers, they are up in the series 3-1 after their Game 4 loss. The Wizards, stepped up and took one. I think it was more impartial because Joel Embiid left the game due to injury. Not sure if he's playing tonight. That could play a big factor on, obviously, if they win or not, and the confidence for the Wizards moving forward. But I'm just going to go out and say that the 76ers finish it tonight with or without Embiid. I just think, the Wizards, outside of Bradley Beal, haven't played up to par. Westbrook, he's getting a triple-double, but the dude is shooting poor, like, very bad. And, like, It's kind of disappointing. So I'm gonna read you the stat sheet that I seen on social media. But so the dude, let me find it. The dude had a triple double, and it kind of seemed like, oh, he had a good game, you know. But no, the dude shot. Let me find it. Where the hell is it? Okay, so he shot 16% from the field, 3 for 19, and he had 19 points, 21 rebounds, 14 assists.
That's bad.
That was in Game 4 when they won. So, like, you need to step up. Like, you're one of the star players on your team, and you're one of the leaders on your team. As much as I love Russell Westbrook, this just ain't it.
No, I agree. I mean, I've always said it. I love Russ. I love the type of player he is, the type of mentality he brings to a team. He has everything I love in a player. Just because he plays hard. It's not even about how talented he is, but he plays harder than anybody. He outworks anybody on the court. I've always loved players like that.
Yeah.
Anybody does. But I've always also said, I think, in my opinion, I think Russell Westbrook is the hardest superstar to win with. And that is the reason. Obviously, all these triple-doubles that he's been getting and averaging a triple-double over so many seasons and, you know, having the most triple-doubles in the history of the NBA, like, he's been mentioned a lot more frequently in these top 5 point guard ever conversations. And while it's hard for you to say that he shouldn't be in that conversation, just because of what he does statistically. But it's so hard to ignore, like, his incapabilities when it comes to shooting the rock. Like,
yeah,
it's so hard.
He's not efficient.
It's so hard to ignore that for me when you're talking top 5, ever, and just being on a team with. And I'm not saying that he's on the best team. Like, he's not on the best team. It's the Wizards, but you know what I mean? Like, the Wizards aren't that deep, but a big part of the reason they're not as good as they should be is also has to do with him. Because they're also not that bad. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, maybe they're not as deep as some of these other teams, but when you have two stars and Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook, you should be more than capable of bringing a series deeper than 5 games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Regardless of who you're playing. You have 2 superstar players, one that you're trying to give, you know, top 5 point guard ever honors, and you're telling me that he can't even bring a series to seven games in the first round. It's just hard for me to believe that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I just don't think you can have both.
Yeah.
You can't be top 5 ever and not be able to bring this series to 7 games. It's hard. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So we're gonna shift over to the last series, the Hawks-Knicks series. The Hawks lead the series 3-1. They upset the Knicks in Game 1 in MSG. Obviously, the Knicks came back and retaliated in Game 2. They went to the A, and, you know, the Hawks just seem to control the series, and now they're up 3-1. Game 5 is tonight. Trae Young's playing out of this world. Clint Capella's in his bag. He even called out the Knicks, basically saying that they can push around whoever they want, and that says a lot because Clint doesn't really, you know, he doesn't really talk. So the fact that he's doing it now, he's clearly confident in what's going on. And Julius Randle should feel some type because the dude is MIA. Like, he was MIP all season. So no.
Now he's MIA.
Now he's MIA. Like, the dude, we need to put an APB out for the guy because although the Knicks are still in the games, if he just plays slightly better, that's all they need. But they could truly use what they had in the regular season from him because they truly need him in this series to even, you know, move forward. I had the Knicks winning. You had the Knicks winning. I don't see them winning the series at this point unless they turn things around, which I don't see happening. I do think they'll win tonight. So I think they'll push it to Game 6, at least. The question is, do they push it to Game 7 and ultimately win it? The only thing that's keep giving me hope is that the opposing team is Atlanta. And you know Atlanta loves to give up them 3-1 leads now. Just something in that water in Atlanta that, they just seem to choke. And this is coming from a Georgia fan for college football. They sip on the same water. So that's the only hope that I'm truly getting with the Knicks possibly moving on to the next round and keeping my prediction alive, even though I said I think the Knicks in 5 or 6. But I do think the Hawks are looking really well, and if they move forward, they would play most likely the 76ers, and I don't think they beat the 76ers in a 7-game series, but with the level of playing, the way they're playing right now, I think they could give them at least a 6-game series.
Yeah. So I believe that I chose the Knicks in 5. I think they could sweep, but I'll give the Hawks a game. Right now, it's looking like what I said is the opposite. However, I don't think that I was wrong in making that assessment, and I think that these games actually proved me right in a way. Obviously, they're not winning this series, but everybody's seen how close these games are, with the Knicks practically not being able to make any baskets. And obviously that's heavily falls on the shoulders of Julius Randle as well, but a lot of the players haven't played well. They're just not shooting well as a team in general. Obviously Julius Randle turning it around would help that. But in general, they're not shooting good as a team. And the games have been very close. Like, very close. You know what I mean? Like, they're not out of reach by any means. And so that's why, for me, it's like, I still think the Knicks are the better team. They're just not showing up. And, I mean, obviously, that's a big part of it. It's part of playoff basketball. Yeah. I can say that they're the better team all I want, but if they're not winning the games, it don't fucking matter.
That's kind of why I said if they just need Randle to play slightly better at this point. And
yeah, 100%.
But they could still use the Julius Randle from the regular season.
100%. And when you say slightly better, he doesn't even have to put up that many more points. I feel like even if he just played more efficiently, they'd be winning these games. So, but with that being said, I mean, I will say this: just because it's a 3-1 lead, so that for me is why I believe this series is over. However many games it goes, I don't know. To me, at this point, it doesn't really matter. When I see 3-1. That, for me, it's like, obviously we've seen it more often in the past few years. People come back from it. But for me, that's practically over. But with that being said, I will also say this. I think out of all the 3-1 series leads currently, the Knicks have the best shot of turning it around. Because, one, like I said already, I do think that they're the better team. They're just not playing better. And two, all they have to do is steal one game in Atlanta. Because 2 out of the next 3 games that you need to win are in New York. All you need to do is steal 1 game in Atlanta. It's going to be a lot harder for Atlanta to win 1 game in New York than it will be for you to win 1 game in Atlanta.
So you're saying the Knicks win tonight?
I do think the Knicks win tonight. And I think if the Knicks win tonight and win in a convincing enough way to give them some momentum going into Atlanta, they can win there. 100%. And that's why I think that I have the best shot. That's what I say. They have the best shot of all 3-1 leads right now of kind of coming back. And I think a big part of that is due, in fact, that I do think they're the better team and they have home court advantage. And they need to take advantage of that.
So the one thing here, obviously I picked the Knicks. But the way everything's planning out, I think the Knicks win tonight. They go back to Atlanta. And Atlanta finishes business at home.
If Atlanta doesn't finish business at Game 6, they're losing in Game 7 in New York. I'll tell you that right now.
You heard it here first.
They need to finish that in Game 6. If they go to Game 7 in New York, if I see any you with Brooklyn, if they go to 7 games in New York, it's not happening. It's not. It's over for Atlanta if they go back to New York for a second time. I'll tell you that right now.
All right, so we're done here. But before we go, obviously we mentioned the Nets Bucks series. Like that's the only series that's solidified for next round. But I just noticed we didn't pick a winner for that series, and I'm pretty sure it'll start before we talk about basketball again. So, how many games does the series go? Keep it short, keep it simple. How many games does this series go, and who comes out on top?
This one,
Bucks Knicks. I mean, Bucks Nets. Bucks Nets.
Bucks Nets. Yes. It goes 7, and I got. That's tough. It goes 7, and I got Milwaukee.
Ooh, okay. I think it goes 7 regardless of who wins, but I got the Nets. And big part is the health of Jeff Green, and because they're gonna need him moving into the next series. But it obviously Giannis got to hit his free throws too. But I think the Bucks have what it takes defensively to minimize obviously Brooklyn's scoring attack.
The damage done,
but that's a big scoring attack to kind of minimize.
Yeah. No, 100%, and that's why I think a lot of this is gonna lie on the shoulders of not Giannis but everybody else, because we've seen it in the past, and that's the reason why nobody even believed in the Bucks even in the last playoff series against the Heat. I mean, obviously they took care of business. 4-0 was easy, but going into this, everybody, most people were again like Bucks are probably gonna blow it because that's what happens. They get there and Giannis shows up, or sort of. Because it's almost kind of impossible for him to, because his team is playing so badly. It's like all we have to do is guard Giannis. But with everybody showing up, if they continue to do so, I think they can win.
I'm interested to see the defensive matchups because we know Giannis is guarding KD, and that matchup in itself, they got similar. I'm not gonna say similar body types because obviously the KD's more slim in frame, but in terms of height, like that's like a perfect matchup. But I'm interested to see who Drew Holiday guards. Does he guard Kyrie or does he guard Harden? If I'm Milwaukee, I put his ass on Harden, and I put Middleton on Kyrie. Even though I don't think that's gonna do much, but I think putting a bigger body on Kyrie might benefit them in a way. And Brooke,
I think I'm more comfortable. I'll say this: I think I might be more comfortable letting Kyrie try to beat me than I am letting Harden.
Well, Harden's technically their point guard now. So he's going to facilitate, which is why I think Drew Holiday needs to guard Harden because I think he needs to be more on ball defense, and Harden's going to have more influence on the game. So throw him at him. I think this is going to be an interesting matchup, but I just think the Nets are too top heavy, and I think in the end that's going to play a factor. But I think this might drain the Nets for a possible. So let's say they move on and they play, let's say Philly, they might drain them. Like they might be tired after the series because it's gonna take everything in their might to move forward. Because
I agree, and I think look, I think if people want to have all this big three talk, I think Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday need to prove it. Because in my opinion, when people started saying that Milwaukee had a big three, I'm like, what the fuck are y'all talking about? Because you could easily play good basketball, and maybe right now you look like a big three because you're playing good basketball. But in my opinion, to have a real big three, there has to be 3 consistently good players that are always at that level. So Drew Holiday and Middleton better show up if they want to be considered that big three. Because if so, that's not fucking happening. They're not a big three. So show up, or you're not a big three.
All right, close this out.
All right, with that being said, that's all we have for you today. We enjoyed talking some playoff basketball as always, even though the Lakers are bumming it. With that being said, like, follow, and subscribe. As always, leave some comments for us. We love interacting with you guys, seeing what you guys think about everything. playoff basketball. We just had, episode about Champions League soccer, which we know that soccer is some of our more popular episodes. People love watching about soccer as well. So, just keep leaving, comments, interacting with us, like, follow, share it with your friends. If you're like into watching us, share with your friends that love sports, and show them why they should be watching us as well. Help us grow as a Balls Deep community. And we appreciate it as always. Show some love to our boys over at the Expansion Pack Podcast. If you are into gaming, if you got friends who are into gaming, they talk about everything, almost anything in entertainment, really. It's a gaming podcast, but they talk about a lot of different things. So if you're into gaming and things of that nature, they're hilarious. And they have a lot of cool things that they do on that show as well. So show them some love. That's all I have for you guys. Devin, if you have anything to add.
I mean, our guys at Expansion Pack Podcast, they got some big personalities over there. So,
dude, they're funny as hell. So you guys definitely should go.
They got some big personalities over there. They also got some interesting things going on with the podcast, with their icebreakers every week, which is I find really dope. So
I do. I love it.
It helps you get to know them personally, but it also allows you to interact and give your opinion. So I think it's a great idea. So they got some good things brewing over there. So go show love, go tune in, and help us get some stuff brewing over here. I'm in the process. I'm just saying this now. I'm in the process of trying to get another logo for us, so we can get some merch out there. Some help get our name out there. And hopefully we can, send it off to Nico so he can wear it to his fights and stuff. So that would be dope. But that's all I have to say. So until next time, peace.
Deuces.
You're talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep. We're talking about balls deep in love. I'm talking about balls deep. My boy's talking about balls deep. We're talking about balls deep in love.